All right, so our next speakers, the first speaker is Larry New. Larry used to be is a senior networking engineer. He's worked for a large number of major corporations, BP, Amoco, McDonald's, that'd be McDonaldo, MCI, and WorldCom. He has expertise in a broad range of networking technologies and telecommunication systems, only some of which I understand. For example, LAN and WAN protocols like LAN. Well, see, that one I don't understand.
LAN and WAN, they rhyme.
LAN and WAN?
Sure.
All right. Clearly I'm applying for IT jobs. Protocols like TCP and IP. Larry also designs and implements high availability networks, IP technology systems, and point-to-point microwave systems. Again, I have no
You
idea.
read them too. We're going to mix it up.
All right, and then the other speaker is David Rahn. Is that pronounced right? I'm sorry, David Rahn. He's Director of Information Technology at the Chicago campus of the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. David has an extensive background in in IT, information technology. He has had management positions in a variety of industries, including capital goods manufacturing, money center banking, process manufacturing, and government service. So a round of applause for our speakers.
Well, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Larry and I, this is going to be real different from our normal thing, because our normal thing runs close to 3 hours. We were on a seminar. We have done this for 5 years this month. We've done this. We do this for free to the folks looking for jobs all around the Chicago area. So we probably had close to 4,000 people go through our workshops and seminars. We think we're pretty well thought of, generally speaking, and when it comes to...
We were referred to these guys by somebody who went to our presentations.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're here. So, we've got a website there, and if we can get on the internet, we'll show you a little bit about it, but we schedule things on the website, so if you're interested in attending one of those things, we'd be happy to have you come around. We don't have any scheduled right now. We're working for one in Naperville, somewhere around December 4th. We kind of do that. We're there, and we try to do about one a month at least, but this work thing gets in the way of doing this. So
We also do by request for organizations like this
Like
one.
this one. So.
A number of different organizations we've done before.
That's what we do. So again, this is going to be kind of a really short. We have a presentation Larry's going to do here, and then we're just going to kind of open it up for questions. I'm going to try and get on the internet so we can actually go to a LinkedIn site and answer any specific questions you might have about LinkedIn, and we can do that kind of the second half of the presentation. So I'll turn over to Larry. Not yet. Well, yeah.
But you know the password. You may have to capitalize letters. Okay, how we doing?
Great.
Good. Bored to tears yet?
No.
Okay. I probably don't need the microphone. Chainsaw. You probably wonder what the chainsaw is. I'll explain it in a couple minutes. Born to Network. This is actually an advertisement came out of a trade publication, a networking publication, okay? And I do networking for a living. I love what I do for a living. And I liked this advertisement, and so I kept it. And I stuffed it in a drawer, and I found it recently, pulled it out, scanned it. As you can see, it's crinkled.
That's not yours?
No. Although I'd considered having that,
I think it'd
but
be good.
that one was an advertisement for a trade show, so I might be infringing on copyrights. LinkedIn. What is LinkedIn? Tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a senior network engineer. I design, build, and support the infrastructure that sits in a wiring closet between your computer and the company servers, your computer and the internet. You might call me a network plumber. Now, what did I just do? Does anybody know what I just did? I did my me in 30 seconds, okay? My me in 30 seconds describes for you what it is I do, what it is I intend to do if I'm a job seeker that's brand new to the world. So, where did I learn how to do that? Because it seemed pretty concise, didn't it? I learned to do that at a 2-day career seminar that's absolutely free. It's in the western suburbs in Lisle at a place called LDIS. LDS. God. I'm mixing my business acronyms. LDS Employment. LDS Employment does a 2-day career seminar. You go on the first day, you do some training. At the end of the day, you split in half, 2 different groups, and you do videotaped interviews with professional people who do videotaped interviews of you. At the end of the interview, you review it with your peers that interviewed with that same person. You say what you thought you did right and wrong, they say what they thought you did right and wrong. The proctor says what he or she thought you did right and wrong. Next day, more training, another videotaped interview, night and day difference from day 1 to day 2. Highly, highly, highly recommended. Anyway, I love what I do for a living. One of my friends told me I know networking, but I don't know how to network. I've been working on that. Today's topic, LinkedIn. Anybody know the most effective way to find a job?
Networking.
How about that, networking? You've seen these before? Seen this? Huh. What is it? What is networking?
Talking to people.
Talking to everyone. It is, it's talking to everyone. And I mean everyone. There are people, believe it or not, who do jobs that are backroom jobs. They're not front-facing jobs. They're not people who have to talk to customers all the time. They're not people who have to talk to other people all the time. Those people are usually gravitate to those roles because they're shy. Maybe they don't like talking to people. But it doesn't matter, because I say talk to everyone. It's important. Talk to the person on the bus next to you. Talk to the person in line in front of you or behind you. It's really critical that you do this. I say this because people who are shy, people who are more reserved, have a problem talking to people they don't know. When you sit down in an interview, the person across the desk from you is a person you know or don't know. If you're already off your game because you're uncomfortable talking to strangers, guess what? You may not get that role because you're already off your game. If you're comfortable talking to people, it's a lot better for you, because when you sit across the desk from that person, he's just like the guy on the bus. He's just like the other person I talked to at the store, or the other person I talked to in line. It's not a difference, is it? So talking to people is a good thing. You don't have to do it forever, but you do have to network forever. Networking is telling everyone you know and everyone you meet that you're actively looking for work. Let them know. If it's people who know you, they're going to remember that you're looking for something. If you give them some concept of what it is you do or what it is you want to do, that helps them even more. But generally, when you're talking to them, you tell them how they can help you. So if I am networking with someone and I say, this is what I am, this is what I do, my name in 30 seconds, and this is how you might be able to help me, that gives them a lot of insight. Because if I just go, I'm looking for work, and they go, okay, give me your resume and I'll hand it to somebody. I'm done. Woo! That's over. I'm done. I have to mess with it, right? No, I control my resume. I make sure that I'm the one that knows where my resume went. I know where it went. I know who it went to, and I know when it went there. Why is that? I know when to follow up. If I give it to somebody, and 3 weeks later they give it to somebody else, how do I know where it went? How do I know what company it went to? How do I know anything about it? I don't. How did it work? There you go. Back in the 1960s, I think it was 67, but I'm not sure, there was a study called the Small World Problem. And in that study was the first results printed in a study associated to 6 degrees of separation. And with that, everyone was determined to be one step away from the people that they know. I know Dave. And if Dave knows Brian, but I don't, I'm 1 step to Dave, first level, 2 steps to Brian, and Brian knows Steven, then I'm 3 steps from him, et cetera, et cetera. If everyone on the planet knows 47, 43. Always blow it. 43 people, if I knew 43 people, and Dave knows 43 people, chances are not all of those people are the same people. So if everyone knows 43 people, you do the math, 6 levels out, you've covered more people than there are on the planet. And this slide is shamelessly taken from Wikipedia to describe this. Basically, person A is 6 steps away from person B. That's why networking is critical. Because you know people. How many people in this room had jobs as a teenager? How many people in this room got their own jobs without the assistance of a relative, friend, neighbor, or some other loved one? How many got those jobs with the assistance of those people that I just mentioned? Guess what? You've been networking for years. You didn't even know it. Okay? Because when people have an opportunity and someone comes to them with someone they know, and they say, hey, you know, my son over here, my brother, my cousin, my nephew, my grandchild, really needs a good job, and he's a hard worker, he'll do a good job for you. She's a hard worker, she'll do a good job for you. That reference between a friend, or someone who's respected and someone else who's respected, goes a way, way, way further than getting them a job application with your name on it. Again, what did she say earlier? Make yourself rememberable, right? Well, how better to be remembered than somebody walking in and handing a piece of paper to you and say, please hire my friend because he's a really good worker and he needs the job and he can do a good job for you. Or she can do a good job for you. Tell everyone what you're looking for, how they can help you. They'll let you know if they hear of anything. They'll remember you. They'll drop you an email, give you a call. Tools. What are your tools? Anybody know what tools are available to you?
LinkedIn.
How about an address book? An address book to manage the contact information. Because if you're going to ship out a resume, you want to know who to mail it to. If you're going to go there for an interview, you might want to know more about the company before you start the process. A log. You can manage the context of what things you've talked about. If you talk to Bob and he's in accounting and you're trying to get into accounting, you write down Bob's name, his number, the conversation you had either on the phone or some record of it in a synopsis in an email. So you can come back to it later. Now, I say this is important. We had a lady that we know, and she applied for a job downtown, and she loved it. They loved her. Great fit, great culture. Those are important things, by the way, fit and culture. Because if it's not the right culture for you, it's not the right job for you. Fit, the culture was great, everything was perfect. And then they throw out, there's about 40% travel. She's a single mother with 3 teenage boys. Chances are 40% travel would not work. She says, I love the job, it's a great job, it's perfect for me. I really like the rapport, but I can't do 40% travel. If you could kick it down a little bit, maybe I could do 20, but that would be hard to do with 3 teenagers. So, well, you know, this job is really 40% travel, and it's that way all along, build that way. So, she's okay. They said, well, we're going to keep you in our file. How many people heard that before? So, that was in August, and in November, they gave her a call. She had her log of the last conversation she had with the HR person, and she was able to go back in. Oh, you were getting ready to go on a vacation in Mexico. How did that work out? Did you enjoy yourself? Put them right back into the same conversation that they were in 3.5 months before. You think that solidified that relationship a little bit? You think that brought her back to the, oh yeah, you remember me. That's nice. It's nice when I feel remembered. How many people like to be remembered? Come on, we all do. And the internet is a great tool for searching information on companies. Notice it does not say a great place to find a job. Notice that? And why do I say that? Well, statistics that I keep hearing from my friends are such that 1 out of every 200 applicants on a job board get hired. Sorry. And if you apply on a company website, 1 out of 75 people that apply on a company website get hired by that company. And if you get a referral in by somebody else, 1 out of every 10 referrals gets hired. Which one gives you the better odds? 1 in 200, 1 in 75, or 1 in 10? Referrals are king. Referrals are the key. Referrals are the way to get in the door. The other thing I want to point out on here is the same study that was from, which I lost the name of the company. It's Career Crossroads. You can find it. They have a PDF file. And in that, it says 51% of the applicants were not qualified for the job. 51% of the applicants not qualified for the job. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. If 1,000 people apply for the job, 500 of them are not even qualified. Not even close. That's amazing numbers. So when you apply to a job, make sure it's a job that fits you, your background, your experience. If you're a janitor, don't apply for the CEO job. It's just not a good fit. It's not a good background. It's not a good experience. It ain't there. Let me see. What's next? Sorry. Are you on LinkedIn? Typically when I meet people, one of the first things I ask them is, are you on LinkedIn? Typical responses are, no, but I keep getting these pesky messages in my inbox. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't know what to do with it. Well, that's important because it's a tool. Tools are really important for you. And with that, I tell a lumberman story. Lumberjack gets a contract. He's got to cut down 3 trees a day for the next 30 days to complete his contractual obligations. He goes out the first day and he cuts down 2 trees. 2 trees. Is he going to make it? He goes to the hardware store and he says, you know, I need my handsaw sharpened. And the guy says to him, well, what are you doing? So I'm cutting down trees. I got to cut 3 a day. I got 2 today. I really need the saw to be sharpened in order to make this. You're never going to make it with a handsaw. You need a chainsaw. Okay? This chainsaw, you should get 3 easy. He goes off. He buys it. He goes off. He comes back the next day and says, I got 2 trees, but I didn't get 3. You must have some really tough trees. Tell you what, swap that out. Here's a bigger one, bigger motor, wider blade. This thing, you get 4 trees a day easy. He goes off. He comes back the next day and says, got 3, but I couldn't get 4. Wow, the guy's scratching his head. Something's wrong. I don't understand this. Give me that thing. He puts it up on the counter. And the guy behind the counter pulls the rope. And Lumberjack says, what's that noise? Just because you have a tool doesn't mean you know how to use that tool. LinkedIn is a tool. Networking is a tool. Handshakes are a tool. Talking to people is a tool. Learn how to do it. It's critical. Sorry. Shake hands, talk to everyone. Talk to strangers. Even though Mom said don't talk to strangers. Okay? What is LinkedIn anyways? Well, most people in this room probably know what Facebook is. It's a social networking tool. Notice the key word, social networking tool. LinkedIn is a professional networking tool. And as a professional networking tool, you connect with people in your profession, connect with people you've worked with in the past, connect with people that you know. It's for your professional relationships. In the past, most of the people in this room won't remember this.
Yeah.
But many of the people who go through our seminar do. We had 2 methods of connecting with people, the US mail and the telephone. It's been a while, but there are people that go to our class, believe it or not, who remember those days. We were a fairly stable society. People lived in the neighborhood, sometimes the same house that they grew up in. Imagine, working for a company for decades. I think those days are pretty much gone. Now the national average is 2.6? 2.4 years. Now, 2.4 years is a scary number, particularly when you hear the number that it takes about a year to a year and a half to find a job, and then you're only going to be there for 2.4. But these are averages, right? So in other words, this also includes the people who start a job and leave the job right away. Why did they start a job and leave the job right away? Because A, they weren't interviewed thoroughly or adequately. B, they were underqualified when they started a job or overqualified when they started a job. C, it wasn't a cultural fit. What do I mean cultural fit? Lady, we know, in fact, we saw her this morning at a meeting. We still network, by the way, even though we're working. We still network. Lady we know, we saw her this morning. She went to work for an organization. It was an international firm. It was a great opportunity. They would send her an email at 1 o'clock in the morning here, which is in India probably noon, I don't know, 1 o'clock, 13 hours or something difference.
Based in India.
They were based in India. They would send her an email and then call her to see if she read the email yet. It's 1 in the morning. She ain't going to be there to do that. But when they tugged that ball and chain, they wanted her to respond. That doesn't always work real well, and it didn't fit her culture. Another cultural thing would be where David works, and I know because I used to work there, they let him take 2 days a year as community service to work anywhere he wants in a community service role, and he gets paid for those 2 days. Now, do you think the ball and chain company would give anybody 2 days that they can work? They want to let you sleep through the night. Are they going to give you 2 days to do community service? Probably not. So the difference in cultures makes a big difference in how well you live there and how long you live there and how long you can put up with that kind of stuff. Because if it isn't fit for you, it's not going to work. So think about that. We move around, and even those people staying in the same house they grew up in have had at least one area code change. Most of you experienced at least 2 area code changes in your lifetime. And the introduction of God knows how many in your cell phone worlds. Today, almost everybody has one or more numbers associated to them. Telephone number at work, telephone number at home, cell phone. Numbers that you can be reached at. Not to mention at least one email. Where's the guy who wanted to be in IT? Yeah. You're going to have at least 6. It's in the contract. The point is, everybody has more ways to get them than you can think of. And people change providers. Up until just recently, you couldn't port your number. You had to change your number to be in a number section that belonged to that particular provider for a carrier for cell phones. If you change your internet provider, you oftentimes change your email address. How can you possibly keep track of all those names and numbers, all those telephone numbers and address numbers for everyone you know? It's not possible. It's not. I have an email listing in my address book, I've got a ton of them that are dead because people have changed, and I never went back to take them out because it didn't make sense to me time-wise, but guess what? They're in there, and they had a whole bunch of them, and I know when they get a new one because they send me an email they got a new one, but if they didn't do that because they forgot, how would I know how to reach them? LinkedIn can help you reconnect with those people. If you knew people in college, you knew people on you were on internships. What were you in I assume you were all in Japan? What were you in Japan for? Internships or?
We worked as teachers.
Like an expat or, okay, as teachers. Okay, cool. So while you were there, did you meet other people who did what you do? Do those people have a good judgment of what you did or how well you did? And you worked for people, right? So if you connect with one of those people on LinkedIn, they might be able to say good things about you, like a referral. Interesting. I found people on LinkedIn that I lost in December of 2000. I used to work for a company. Dave laughs every time I do this. I used to work for, there's an eraser. I used to work for a company called Amoco. You might have remembered their gas stations, red, white, and blue. All of that went to green and white when they got bought by BP. I'm sorry, it was a merger of equals, and if you saw in the newspaper, it had gas pumps hugging each other. If you're from Chicago, you probably saw it. And you know how to pronounce that? Because that was the resultant name of the company when they merged. Can anybody pronounce that? Okay, take a crack at it. Come on, somebody. Take a crack. How do you pronounce that? No, you pronounce it BP. Amoco was totally silent in the merger. I'm not bitter. I love that joke. The point is, when things change, things change. You just have to embrace the change and move on. So, I had a fellow that I worked with. He was an accountant. And he went out to Boston to look at an organization that Amoco was going to buy. He needed somebody from IT to come out and look at their infrastructure and see what they had. So my boss said, ever been to Boston? I go, no. He says, well, you're going. We need somebody to go up there and take a look at this. And you know these things, you can take a look at it. I went up there, I looked at the stuff. I not only told the accountant what he needed to know, I told him why it was important for him to know it. And we parted ways after 2000 when the merger became, when the merger happened. And I was on LinkedIn in a group looking for a group. I found a group of ex-Amoco people, okay? And I saw his name and I said, wow, this is great. So I sent him popped him a message and said, are you the same Frank that was in Boston? Remember the Hard Rock Cafe? Remember the job we did? He says, I definitely remember the Hard Rock, his answer back, I remember the Hard Rock Cafe. It was not the band I thought it was. He told me who the band was. It was amazing. He remembered more about this than I did. And at the end, he said, I owe you more than you will ever know. Wow, I didn't even know he owed me anything. I thought I was doing my job. It turns out, what he does today is he works with companies that need funding. So he goes in and looks at it from an accounting perspective, but he can also take a quick overview of their technology because he knows what to look for and why. So because he does that for a living today, he feels he owes me more than I will ever know. Interesting how you help people and you don't even know it. LinkedIn helps you manage that contact information because people update their own. So if you're connected on a first level, if I'm connected to David on a first level and he changes his email address, I don't have to really know that because I can find it in the system. What's that noise? Notice what's that noise? That parallels the story, right? How can I use LinkedIn? Well, you can find jobs on LinkedIn. And we show you this in the 3-hour presentation we do. You can find former associates on LinkedIn. The people that I talked about a minute ago are your former work associates, people who were peers side by side with you, people who you might have interacted with from the customer side, people you might have interacted with from your peers, subordinates, or bosses. People you might have had as a professor in school are also good for people that are just starting their career. Because the professor knows you for a period of time, you're doing the work, you're diligent, you're not diligent, they can say nice things about you. And you can find information about an interviewer on LinkedIn. I've been involved, and you as a recruiter can tell me, you normally prep the people by telling them the name of the people they're going to meet with. If they give you the name, look them up on LinkedIn. You find out where their background is, where their history is, where they've been. Do you know anybody that knows them? These are all important things to help you get a level set. In the old days, way back when, they would say, when you're in the interview, look around the room. There are probably pictures of a boat or pictures of kids or a picture of a cabin or something. Maybe a degree on the wall. Talk about those things. See if you can get something going with that. If they went to the same school you did, bring it up in conversation. Just reinforce you went to the same school that they did. If it's pictures of their kids, ask them if they're in the band or if they're whatever they are. Well, now you can know a lot about their work life before you walk in the door. And you can get information about companies on LinkedIn. Data mining. You can contact build in a number of different ways. When you connect to people on LinkedIn, on a first level, you can see their connections. I can see all of David's connections. David can see all my first level connections. I couldn't see Brian's if he was a second level, but I can see David's. But David can see Brian's. This is one of the reasons why recruiters, no offense, want to connect with you on LinkedIn, because they want to see who you're connected with. They want to see what their backgrounds are. They want to see what their experience is. They want to see if they can put them in a role that they have that they're being paid for. Because remember, what did she say? They're not working for you, they're working for the company. It's in their best interest to connect you on a first level. And not all recruiters are really nice people. Some recruiters are ne'er-do-wells. They'll go out and pick through your contacts and try and reach out to these people because they can see where they work, and they'll call the company and ask them by name, are you looking to move? Well, people who might not be looking to move may not want that. And guess what? When they don't like that, that's not good. How did you find my name? Well, I was talking to Bob, and Bob said, so they call Bob and go, Bob, what are you giving my name to those guys? You know I don't want to move. I didn't do that. You can search in LinkedIn by name. You can search by company. You can search by any combination, name and company, any combination you want. Again, you can look directly in your own connections for other people that you might know. If Dave were connected to somebody that I wasn't, and we worked together in a previous life, I might find somebody in Dave's first level connections that I might need to use. Get connected to a former great boss. Again, I talked about the people you worked for, where you were in your training program you were involved with. Get connected to a great former contractor or coworker, someone else you worked with. It's good to be connected to people Because those people know other people. LinkedIn has a thing called invitations. I love the term invitations because invitation says it all for this category. It happens to be a key part of building up your network. You're asking for someone you know to connect with you on a first level or join you on LinkedIn. When you do it, add information, as I talked about before when I talked to Frank. Frank, remember Boston, the Hard Rock Cafe? Guess what? He remembered Boston. He remembered the Hard Rock Cafe. Young lady I knew several years ago said, you know, I've only got connected to 2 people on LinkedIn, and you're one of them. I said, well, think about somebody you knew from 3 years or 3 companies ago. What did they do for you? Oh, she says, this woman helped me with PowerPoint. I said, great, tell her that when you do the invitation. She sent her an invitation, and in there she said, remember you showed me how to use PowerPoint? That was great. I've taken classes, developed my skills, and now I'm a PowerPoint expert thanks to you. You think that woman liked being remembered? Of course she did. She connected to her right away. Remind them of where they know you or how you met. How they helped you in the past is really critical, because if they have helped you, it's really key. Introductions, another nice term, a great term in fact. Introductions. You might want to be introduced to a famous person. You might not want that famous person to be on your first level connection. And I tell a Tony story. Tony's a friend of ours. Tony went to a barbecue several years ago. And as a result of being at the barbecue, he and his wife had their picture taken with a famous person and the famous person's spouse, and he had his arm around the famous person in the photo. And that was over the weekend, and on Monday he shipped that photo out to every one of his first level connections, basically most of the people he knew, and it was great. I think it was 3 months or 4 months later, Blagojevich got indicted. So here's a photo of him with his arm around somebody, appearing as if they're on a very, very close relationship first level. And you know what? It might not be somebody you really want to associate with. You might want an introduction to somebody that's a famous person or somebody in a power mode, but you might not necessarily want to be on a first level with them. It's a great way to get your name exposed into a company. It's a great way to help other people in your network if they need their name introduced into a company and you know somebody working in a company. And it's likely that someone in your network will know someone that works at a company. That's pretty simple. How many people know someone who works for a company and knows someone who works in a company? Pretty much everybody. But you're asking someone you know to pass a message to someone you don't. That's the key here. You're asking someone you know to pass a message to someone you don't. I go, what the heck does that mean? Here's what it means. If you had information for Rahm Emanuel, and you saw him on the street, you go, Rahm, I got a great idea for you. Yeah, thanks for voting for me, and he'll keep on going if he even says that. But if you know somebody that's a confidant, a first level connection, really close to Rahm Emanuel, and you talk to that person and you tell them, look, I really need to talk to him, I've got this great idea, I want to tell him how the city can make some money on their parking tickets. Or make money on whatever it is, right? Now you've piqued an interest, and now this person who's close to him says, you know what, Mayor, I got this friend over here you really need to talk to. They got a really good idea for how you can pick up some of the deficits we have in the budget. Now, if you call them out on the street, or if you're introduced through somebody else, which one's going to make more difference? Which one's going to be listened to? The one where you have a close confidant who tells you you need to talk to this person makes a lot of difference. You heard this in the last presentation, didn't you? Guess what? People who know you can refer you on with glory and praise. An example of which is a lady that we know several years ago was looking for a connection into renewable energy field. I happen to know somebody in that field. I told her, look up this person's name, see who's next to you, request an introduction. She did. It went to my friend Steve. Steve sent me the information and said, I highly recommend Kathleen, blah, blah, blah. Can he highly recommend Kathleen if he doesn't know her? Why? Because that tears down his relationship with his friend, me. So if you picture the introduction as something a friend does for a friend, with a friend, guess what? There's a lot of meat to that. Now, I receiving that request have a choice. Steve receiving that request had a choice. Do I pass this along or do I not? If I pass it along, I want to make sure my credibility, which is now on the line, matches what's happening here. If it's a janitor applying for a CEO position, as I described before, that ain't going to make it, and I'm probably not going to pass it on. Steve probably wouldn't pass it on. But this wasn't that. It was legitimate, and it made sense. Introductions. If you're asking a connection for an introduction, it might give you a leg up against other people who might be applying for the job. You heard it in the last presentation. Charlotte, right? That's your name, Charlotte?
Yep.
Yeah, Charlotte. Charlotte said, if you get your resume in the hand of somebody and they walk it down to the hiring authority, and they walk it down to HR and they drop it off on that desk, it means a lot. It's been pre-screened. It's been compared against the job requisition. Other people, maybe 200, 2,000 people apply online, but you had yours hand carried down. Big difference. How can I use them? Well, you can ask about an opening status. There may be a job that's posted on the internet, and believe it or not, there's actually stale jobs out there, but you can use that to your advantage, because if you send an introduction request to an HR manager because somebody you know knows that HR manager, guess what? You can say, I'm looking for information about this job. I'm really interested in it. I'm really confident that yours is the organization that I really want to work for. And I've seen too many jobs that are on the internet that are stale. Is this one still active? Are you still searching for me? Are you still searching for someone to fill this role? You can ask for an informational interview. In fact, that's what Kathleen was doing when she was doing it. She wanted to talk to somebody in that industry. She didn't want a job interview. She just wanted to talk to somebody. She came from a project management background inside of Lucent, been there for a number of years, and she wanted to see if they could use her skills in the renewable resources field. It turns out that they did, they could. Now, when you go to an informational interview, I say, don't bring a resume. Why is that? Because it's not an interview for you to be interviewed. It's an interview of them to ask them information about that job. Well, how would you use this? How would you do that? How do you guys make this happen? Is it possible you could use somebody with a project management skill in this organization, and organizations like yours, do they use this? Industry-related questions. Things like that are important in these things. If you bring a resume, it kind of defeats the purpose if you go in there, because guess what happens? You don't bring a resume, and they say, well, did you bring a resume? Do you have a resume? Oh, no, this was an informational interview. Credibility, right? I didn't come here planning on giving you a resume. You have credibility. But if you give me your business card, I'll be happy to mail you one tonight when I get home, or tomorrow. They give you the business card. What's that also give you? Carte blanche to call them back. Carte blanche to send them another email. Hey, I sent my email off on Monday night. As I said, did you get it yet? Did you get a chance to review it? Oh, okay, thanks. Guess what? You got an in. If you just hand them the resume and walk away, do you have an in? You have a way to follow up? Nope. So I say don't do it. If your resume was sent in via the web portal with 300 or 400 others, and mine was dropped off by someone inside the organization, I just went through that, sorry. Some people might say, I'm networking now. Why would I create, build, or enhance my network? The answer's in a book by Harvey McKay. Dig your well before you get thirsty, which I believe actually came out of something Confucius said centuries ago, okay? Because guess what? When you're doing physical labor to dig a well, it's not the time to dig the well because you don't have no water to dig the well with. You're going to pass out before you get that deep. Harvey McKay started out in a mailroom in a company, and now he owns McKay Envelope Company. So he really moved himself up in the world through sales, through the things that he's done. He also has a weekly message he sends out, which is pretty inspirational, and a lot of times geared around job search. think he wrote a book called Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten, something like that. And if you've ever heard him talk, he's very good. Recommendations. I love recommendations. They're wonderful. They reinforce the lies that are on your resume. I'm sorry, they reinforce what your resume says. Give them freely, give them truthfully. Talk about other people. For example, if you knew somebody was an excellent instructor when you were in Japan, to go out and talk to them, get them signed up on LinkedIn, and then make a really good recommendation about them, is that important to them? They're being recognized. You're saying they did a great job, and this is how they did it. When you do a recommendation, Dave goes a lot more detail on this in our class. Have you ever heard of behavioral questions, behavioral interview questions? They'll look at your resume, they'll read your resume, and they'll go, tell me about a time when you, and they'll pull something right off the resume. If you can't talk about it, likely you didn't do it. That's why they do these things. But if you can answer those behavioral questions in a standardized format, which would be, depending on who you talk to, PAR, problem, action, result, SAR, situation, action, result, STAR, situation, task, action, result, and there's a whole bunch of acronyms for it, but it all means the same thing. Brief synopsis of what was the situation. Brief synopsis of what was your action. Brief synopsis of what the results were. If you can answer questions that way in an interview, you're going to be better off than a lot of people because they ramble. But if you make a recommendation for someone else and you say, this is a situation, they were in a foreign country teaching American English to people in that foreign country, and they were fantastic instructors, and their graduation rate with success was 98%. Does that say a lot about that person and their style and what they do? Yes, it does. So, it's wonderful. Accept them gratefully. When you get a recommendation from somebody, you get to review it. In that recommendation review, you determine whether or not it's good. If they have spelling errors in there, they're going to look like a buffoon. If you accept it, guess what you look like? A buffoon. So you can say to them, hey, can you correct the spelling errors and send it back? But the best thing you can do is send them a request to the peer that you worked with over there and say, hey, you know, when I was over there and I helped to rebuild that class because the instruction program wasn't quite right, could you talk about that in a recommendation? Well, they come back and they say that, I don't see your name tag, it's turned on. Yiling? That Yiling came in, we had no program, she rebuilt what little bit we did have and turned it into a classroom that we could actually deliver good student information to. Well, guess what? That says what it was, and it says what she did, and it says the results. And as a result, the students now passed 99% of the students, or whatever the number might be. 99 is overzealous. You're good at this. Don't play ping pong. If you were to recommend me today, you have to be on the first level to do that, but if you were to recommend me today, it's going to say, oh, that Isaac recommended me, do I want to recommend him? If I say yes, they both have the same date stamp on it. Wait a week, no big deal, he's not going to miss it. And then a week later, send it out again. It's not going to have the same date stamps. Trust me, if I found it, other people will find it. Toughest job in the world, finding a job. And the most important job in the world, finding a job. And that concludes this, as you can see up there.
That's it.
How do I exit this thing?